differs from that presentation. I don't know, but you probably have your arguments. Ruben.
Okay. Let me start by saying that this is something that is really important, and it will amaze a lot of us to know that there are a lot of people out there, they are not even aware of something like this. Now, when we spoke with him and I started looking at the issue, and as a little research, I'll sit with the person down and I'll ask him, what exactly do you understand by cognitive justice? And he'll be like, what is that? You know, and I realized that over time, it has become so cemented, it has become so embedded in the system in which you operate, to the extent that we've taken it for granted. That is why you hear concept these days of people who claim they are born to rule. And because we've operated under the system for a very long time, gradually wake up and you realize that yes, somebody has been born to rule over you. And whatever it is you do is structured towards that unconsciously without knowing. Now, if you look at this thing, you realize why certain things are happening in Africa and Nigeria. I was looking at why universities in this country are ranked lower compared to other universities out there. And apart from some of the reasons, facilities and some other things, I realized that one of the criteria that is actually used in ranking is a university that has academicians that have won awards, Nobel laureates. And I looked at Harvard University. Harvard University has about 21 laureates, Nobel laureates, more than the one we have in Africa. I think in Africa we just have about 12. Now, what are the reasons? And I realized that for those people, for the awards they've won, the award are structured based on Western ideals. The award are structured based on Western understanding. If you wake up in Africa and come up with a very good book, very good research, as long as it doesn't conform to those standards set by the West, they don't look at it, they don't value it as something worthy of mention. Now, how many people in Africa have, apart from Wole Soyinka and some few people, even the Nobel laureates that Africans have gotten are more on peace, Mandela, and stuff like that. So it gives you an idea that there's a certain standard set by somebody out there, and that person is operating on that. And unconsciously, because you've been operating under that standard, you agree with it. In fact, you grow up falling into line without questioning why. You don't really understand what is happening, but you never bothered to ask. If you look at the issue of democracy, who tells you that the democracy we're currently practicing is the best? No, because this is what somebody out there feels is the best. Who tells you that you cannot understand a textbook if it is written in Hausa or in Agara or in Bagu? Why should it be written only in English? Now, that is the standard set up by somebody, and we're operating on that. You go to Russia, you go to China, you go to some of these countries, they do everything in their native language. So basically what I'm saying is that this is something that's very important. We that can wake up the consciousness of people to begin to realize this kind of thing. People need to understand what is happening and begin to take their destinies into their hand based on this understanding.
Yeah.
So that's more of a contribution.
It's a contribution.
Yes, it is.
Okay, let's keep our contributions.
Thank you.
2 minutes.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll be fast. Actually, some weeks ago I was listening to NT International. It's true about this. In Tuesday Live. There are some brilliant minds on the panel there. We were discussing the depth of history subject in Nigerian public school. So I was listening. I just got everything there. Honestly, if you observe in our public school, the teaching of history has declined. And one of the parties discussed on the panel, they said is afraid there's a grand conspiracy to bury it. If our children will be taught history, is afraid there will be a revolution in this country. And I'm suspecting there must be an IMF connection to that. There are many young Nigerians, I'm telling you today, they don't know how English language come about. They speak it, they express it, but they don't know the historical origin of it. When you start talking to them, they're like, what this thing happen? So the government is doing our younger generation a great disservice if history will not be taught. Because history, as a subject, if you open your mind, if you make it to understand, in short, nothing happen that doesn't have a root. Like what doctor is just explaining. There must be a beginning. When you get it from there, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good evening, everybody. Mine is a question and just a little contribution. I just want to find out, in our pursuits, we're talking about cognitive justice for all identities. It appears from our discussion, this concept of identities, we are limiting it to political identities. Talking about political identities, talking about tribes, talking about religion, and all that. My question is, there are different types of identities in society. Some are political, some are cultural, some are even sexual identities. Well, my question will go towards that. Now, is cognitive justice for all identities? I say this against the backdrop of, recently we were all aware the issue of homosexuality and all that came up. I found it interesting the way Nigerians, we tolerate corruption, we tolerate all manner of things. But when it came to the issue of gays and lesbians, personally, I have not, I don't know any gay or lesbian. But I find it interesting the way the passion, the energy, the criticism, and all that. That's our setting. Now that's an identity. What I would like to raise an identity. It may not be a regular identity in Nigeria, but in some parts of the world it is an identity. So, in our pursuit for cognitive justice in Nigeria, in this setting, do we allow them to come in? Do we also treat them as equals?
Yes, you are very correct. Okay, let's hear how he responds to that. You have
maybe let me just make a suggestion, if possible.
Right.
Some of the questions too. I think there are people here that can also answer some of the questions.
Chip in.
Yeah.
I was going to say something.
Okay.
Yes, because before he responds, there is a small book circulating. It's an encyclical from the Holy Father of Francis. It's on this debate over environmental degradation, addressing the issue of our common home, what we are doing with it. Now, very interesting there is something I've been battling with. And you can see the philosophy running through that. It's clear. If you have not seen it, I'm sure to clarify so many things. Now,
I've read every single piece of work written by Pope Francis.
okay. Now, economic literature, how it is that we are conditioned to think in certain ways, economically, and it determines everything else we do. The way we conceive of the environmental problem is determined by the economics of the market. Everybody we are part of a market. I have no intrinsic value as a human being, but as a commodity or a consumer of commodities. The environment has no intrinsic value except to be exploited to make money by somebody and to make profit, and so on. So while we are looking at the issue of multinational and cultural identities, and how we are going to change the way we think about ourselves. We need to be able to challenge the basic, the fundamental way that we have been more or less caged and pigeonholed. Yes, in terms of economic language, the economics of it all. And the most powerful engines, where all the ideas are manufactured with all the sophistry and sophistication, is in the World Bank and the IMF. There is no idea that comes, because they have billions of dollars. There is no idea that they don't take up and more or less bastardize it, twist it to fit whatever. So I think that while we are doing that, while we are talking about this, we want to look at a holistic approach to it. And I think that it is important that he addresses it as he looks at the basic issues about thinking about how we are, who we are, how we have come to be, and what justice and injustice we are living with, whether we accept it, we imbibe it, we practice it or not.
All right. Thank you. You have 5 minutes.
Okay, just to respond to the questions asked. I'm standing up because I feel uncomfortable. Some people are still behind me. About the pedagogy of the oppressed, Paulo Freire, a Brazilian writer, gave some very insightful points about the oppressed. That because the oppressed lives under the oppressor, he wants to be a man, a person, but his ideal of a person is in the image of the oppressor. So as soon as he becomes emancipated, he becomes an oppressor. That is his ideal of a person, an ideal person. Paulo Freire uses the word man. I'm using person with due respect to gender sensitivity. In the context of post-colonial Africa, the elites took over power, and they spend their lives watching these colonial masters flogging everybody, oppressing people, living in expensive houses, and exactly the same philosophy lingers on. In my research, I call it the colonizing epistemology, the body of ideas that come together to justify the subjugation of some over others. So new layers of subjugation are created post-colonially, either through religion as a paradigm, ethnic descent as a paradigm, or so on. In some cases, the Europeans themselves impose particular identities over others. And when you look at the reason why philosophy is important is because Hegel is the one who prescribed the escape route for these savage Africans who have no philosophy and no education and no capacity to rise beyond the intellectual dexterity of a 7-year-old. So for him, he said, the only item that appears to bring the African savage close to civilization is Mohammedanism. That was their own concept. By the way, this leads me to the question of religion, because you asked about religion. They said Mohammedanism is what appeared to bring the savage African close to colonialism, close to civility, because, you know, Islam was a very powerful force globally. And Islam really dealt a very terrible blow to the Europeans. Did you know that the Iberian Peninsula, Portugal and Spain were under Islamic colonialism for 781 years? That the Europeans learned the art of enslavement and colonialism from what they endured under Islamic colonialism. It was in 1492 that Granada, the last Islamic caliphate in the Iberian Peninsula, was captured. Incidentally, the same year that Christopher Columbus landed in America and he started planting their flags. Why is it that soon after they left, the Arabs and North Africans, that's when Africans say they once ruled Europe, that's what they mean. When Gaddafi say threatened Europe, that he's going to resurrect Al-Andalusia, that is what he means. Because Africans who were Islamized in North Africa, along with Arabs, actually ruled Spain and Portugal. And in Spain and Portugal, you see the signs everywhere. They are very, very, very sensitive to such issues. So this brings us to the question of religion in cognitive justice. How do we treat religion in cognitive justice? The question is also connected to the issue of identity. Barrister Alat, the identity we talk about here is primary identity. What you cannot live without. You cannot be fully human without. You are born into a group of people, a community. You communicate, you need language. You must have a home, and therefore you must have a place you call your ancestral homeland. And you have a claim to autonomy, because every human aspires to be the master of his or her own fate. Now, using this paradigm, we define identity in a context that will suit the public space. We're dealing with plurality. So the public sphere, things that are actually meant for the private sphere, we do not make the mistake of dragging them into the public sphere. And for me, issues of whether you are gay or whatever does not belong in the public sphere. When I was in Ipus area, they used to be endowed with the prophet, if I'm not mistaken. Nobody used to harass them. But when the West brought this private issue and made it a public issue, these people became like connivers of the West, and they are targets in Uganda and other places like that. So we leave that aside. The religion. What is the nature of religion?
1 minute.
Religion is a thing of the heart. It's a thing of free will. I should be free to become a Muslim today. I should be free to drop any religion and say I'm an atheist today. And I shouldn't be penalized for that. And an enabling environment should be provided for everyone to be able to exercise his free will. What is humanity when your free will is limited? So in cognitive justice, we promote this idea that opens the door for one to exercise their free will in respect of something you can drop and take, but you can't change your skin color. You can't change where you come from, even if you deny it. And there are some writers that talk about self-hatred. Africans having been colonized, our image of the ideal person is a white with long hair, with bleached skin, and so on. These are all psychological sicknesses we hope to be emancipated from. John talks about cognitive justice. You see it as war. Please, in cognitive justice, we don't see it as war. We have certain principles which are in the book that is to be published. Number one is non-violence. We're absolutely non-violent. And therefore, we're not going to carry arms and say we're fighting a war the way the Biafran people are doing. That's a terrible mistake. And there is more power in non-violence. Look at all the people that crystallized the biggest change in history. Martin Luther King Jr., Mahatma Gandhi. These people were non-violent. Mahatma Gandhi, ahimsa. First, do no harm. Other principles include recognition of plurality, equality, but most importantly, our approach is to include the oppressor in the struggle for emancipation, because the oppressor needs to be free from the need to oppress. That's a mental state. So that means both the oppressed and the oppressor are in this movement for cognitive justice. Our challenge is to bring in the oppressor. And regarding Harvard being, you made a very good point about why you cannot read in Hausa or Bagu. That's a very good point. The European, like Lugard said, tries to use his culture, make you believe and accept that, look, his culture is the right way. That's progress. Your own is backward. You should run away from your culture. As long as somebody uses his own cultural premise to dictate what you determine, what you define as progress, you are finished. You are forever subjugated. So cognitive justice aspires for the equal treatment of diverse identities, not just at the global level, but even domestically. We need a constitutional order where you as a Bagu man can speak Bagu as an official language in your homeland, alongside English or any other language. Teaching history, well, very good observations, and I think I've answered your concept of identity. We have a very concise definition of identity, what we include, what we exclude, in ways that will give every human being that feeling that, yes, I'm free, and I can exercise my free will, I am human. So the gay thing belongs to the private sphere. Maybe people that do private work can take it up. We avoid it. Many Europeans have tried to pin me down on this question, but we tell them we deal with the public sphere, creating a public order where everyone is given equal treatment in the eyes of the public. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
Sorry. Regarding the economics, the neoliberal framework that emerged after World War II means America is in control of everyone. Right now, that framework is challenged by Russia, creating a new a new economic sphere. There's a real Cold War going on in that regard. And we here, unfortunately, buy hook, line, and sinker into the Western model. And Thomas Piketty, in his Capital in the 21st Century, says that the patterns of inequality will only become aggravated with this same paradigm we're using. Many people have been research in this context, and it's also part of what we are looking at in cognitive justice. We cannot resist that.
All right, thank you. Now that
Africa unite, 'cause we're moving right out of Babylon, and we're going to our father's land. Yeah. How good and how pleasant it would be